The massive chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with the quiet, persistent energy of hundreds of alien representatives, each one shifting in their gravity-adjusted seats. It was a gathering of worlds, each with their own long histories, achievements, and unique technologies, but it was Earth's turn to be presented before this august body. Among the varied species, Ambassador James Miller was perhaps the most ordinary presence. His height was unimpressive, and his features unremarkable, yet his humanity stood out starkly among the assembly of strange, otherworldly beings. His hand instinctively reached up to adjust his tie, a gesture he had no intention of thinking about until he realized just how noticeable it was to the council members, many of whom were either staring intently or subtly exchanging glances. It was an awkward moment, but not one that could be avoided. He was, after all, the first human ever to stand in this ancient chamber, located on a space station that orbited a distant star far from Earth's familiar blue skies. "Proceed with your military capabilities presentation, Earth representative," the head counselor's voice echoed across the chamber. Their tone was precise and neutral, though Miller recognized the weariness in their tone, a clear sign of impatience. The alien's multiple eyes blinked in quick succession, which had become a universally recognized signal for the same emotion, irritation. Miller adjusted his stance, took a deep breath, and activated the holographic display, watching as it shimmered to life before him. "The Earth Defense Force relies on a variety of weapon systems," he began, projecting images of Earth's technology. "Our primary small arms use a propulsion system based on controlled explosive force to launch metal projectiles." His words were calm and professional despite the weight of the moment. On the screen, the images cycled through tanks, fighter jets, and infantry units, offering a glimpse into the might of Earth's military history. A sudden burst of laughter came from the right side of the chamber. A tall, metallic-skinned being stood up, their armor gleaming beneath the lights of the chamber. Admiral Brightshield of the Stormwing Military Command wasted no time in making his amusement clear, speaking in rapid bursts. His translator struggled to keep pace with the speed of his words, but it was still audible across the chamber. "You mean to tell us," Brightshield said almost incredulously, "that your species still throws metal pieces using explosions like savages with better toys?" The laughter that followed his words rippled through the assembly, alien voices chiming in with approval. Miller didn't let the insult rattle him. He had been prepared for this. The assumption that Earth's methods were primitive was predictable, and in many ways he was accustomed to hearing it. His fingers tightened for a moment on the display controls, but he kept his voice steady. "Our ballistic weapons have proven highly effective throughout our history," he replied calmly, "and we have developed various advanced tactics and systems built around them." "No need for your outdated devices," Brightshield interrupted, a smug look flashing across his face. He raised his armored arm, and a sleek energy pistol materialized from a compartment within his suit. The plasma weapon crackled as it activated, its bolt capable of traveling at near light speed. The weapon's design was elegant and deadly. Brightshield proudly pointed it toward the audience. "This personal defense weapon fires plasma bolts at nearly light speed, protected by quantum targeting systems. One shot can vaporize your primitive armor in an instant." The chamber buzzed with approving murmurs as several representatives activated their own displays, showing off their respective energy weapons, gravity-based armaments, and advanced energy shields. The reactions were almost universal, impressed yet condescending. "Impressive," Miller acknowledged with a nod despite the jabs. "But there's more to Earth's defense capabilities than just these weapons." He was beginning to lose his patience, but he could feel his training kicking in, reminding him to stay composed and focused on the mission. The head counselor raised a hand, silencing the room. "We have reviewed your submission for council membership," they said. "While we acknowledge your species' achievement in reaching the stars, we find your military technology concerning." Miller's brow furrowed slightly at the council's cold tone. "Concerning?" he asked, his voice betraying a hint of confusion. "Yes," another council member chimed in. Their tentacles waved in a gesture of dismissal. "Your reliance on kinetic weapons poses a safety risk to advanced civilizations. One stray bullet could breach a ship's hull or damage sensitive equipment." The voice dripped with condescension, clearly uninterested in understanding Earth's reasoning. "We propose," the head counselor continued, "that Earth be granted protected status instead of full membership. This would allow us to guide your species toward more civilized defense technologies." Miller's frustration began to show, but he didn't let it control him. "With all due respect," he said, his voice firm, "our weapons have proven reliable and effective in our own defense. We would be happy to demonstrate their precision and safety in any situation. The words left his mouth without hesitation. Bright Shield, ever dismissive, leaned forward, cutting him off. There is no need for demonstrations, he scoffed. We've seen enough of your explosives and metal-throwing devices. His voice rang with finality. The Council cannot risk having such volatile weapons in civilized space. Accept our protection, human. In time, your species may evolve beyond these primitive methods. The chamber erupted in agreeing voices, the aliens nodding their approval as they cast sidelong glances at one another. Some were already turning away, considering the matter resolved. The head counselor raised a hand again to silence the chamber. The Council will take a short recess. Upon our return, we will formalize Earth's protected status and begin arrangements for technological guidance. As the chamber emptied, Miller remained at the podium, standing alone. He had expected this reaction, just as Earth's military leaders had predicted. He tapped his communicator, sending a short, cryptic message back to Earth Command. They reacted exactly as expected. Proceeding with Phase 2. Miller smiled slightly, even as the laughter of the Council members still echoed faintly in his ears. Let them laugh, he thought. Humanity had learned long ago that sometimes the simplest solutions were the most effective. The Council would learn that lesson too, but not in the way they expected. The chamber's lights dimmed, leaving Miller in the shadows, yet he felt no fear. The Empire may have underestimated Earth's resolve, but it would soon understand the strength of the simplest of human ideas. 3 weeks later, Earth was about to deliver its message to the galaxy in a much more profound way. As Captain Thomas Reed watched the sleek alien ships land in the desert sands of Earth's Fort Bradley, he knew that the demonstration was going to have far-reaching consequences. With the alien observers, their reflective environmental suits glittering in the desert sun, Reed greeted them calmly. Welcome to Fort Bradley, he said, nodding to the sprawling military base behind him. We've prepared a full demonstration of our combat capabilities. The lead observer, a being of crystalline skin, looked down at Reed with an expression of disdain. I am Observer First Class Clearmind. The translator's voice made their words sound almost musical, but there was no mistaking the condescending tone. We are here to evaluate your primitive weapons for safety concerns. Reed led them to the firing range, where Earth's full arsenal was arrayed before them. The alien observers looked on as Reed proudly displayed the array of weapons, each one more powerful than the next. As the demonstration continued, it became clear that the Council had underestimated humanity's potential. The day of reckoning had come, and the simple Earth weapons were about to make their mark. The massive barrel of the tank's main gun pointed downrange as Captain Thomas Reed stood before the assembled alien observers. With a measured calm, he spoke, explaining Earth's military might. These are our standard infantry weapons, he said, picking up a sleek rifle from the table in front of him. This one fires 5.56 mm rounds, effective, reliable, and efficient. The lead observer, Clearmind, a being whose crystalline skin glimmered under the desert sun, interrupted before Reed could continue. Fascinating, Clearmind murmured, clearly unimpressed, but you still use solid projectiles? How do your troops manage the recoil without servo-assisted armor? The bored tone in their voice was unmistakable. Reed smiled knowingly, not rattled by the alien's dismissiveness. We handle it just fine, he said. Would you like to see a demonstration? The observers, several of them now standing at a distance with their arms folded, nodded, signaling they were prepared to witness this so-called primitive weaponry in action. Reed gestured toward his team, and 5 soldiers stepped forward, assembling at the firing line. Targets materialized downrange, some stationary, others moving at varying speeds. Begin, Reed commanded. The crack of gunfire rang out, sharp and quick, with bullets striking the targets with startling precision. The sound of gunfire echoed across the desert, a rhythmic barrage that reverberated through the air. Reed watched the observers closely as their eyes flickered nervously. A few even flinched at each shot, their protective force fields flickering momentarily as they automatically adjusted to the violence unfolding before them. Such violence, one of the observers muttered, their voice laden with disapproval. Another observer, Bright Thought, commented more analytically, his tone dripping with disbelief. And the noise. Our sonic dampeners can barely handle it, he added, clearly disturbed by the sheer force and sound of Earth's weaponry. Reed, undeterred, continued the demonstration, his soldiers performing quick reloads and flawless target transitions. He knew their discipline and training would show the aliens just how effective human soldiers were, even without the flashy energy shields and quantum targeting systems. This is just the beginning, Reed said with a smile, pausing for dramatic effect. "We have yet to show you our heavy weapons." The demonstration continued into the morning. The observers, initially dismissive, were now watching with growing unease. With each weapon demonstration, from sniper rifles to grenade launchers, they grew more uncomfortable. Each human soldier exhibited the kind of skill and precision that wasn't supposed to be possible with primitive weapons. And when the tank's main gun fired, sending a powerful round into the desert target, two of the observers jumped so high their gravity stabilizers kicked in, locking them in midair for a split second. "Impossible," Clear Mind muttered under their breath, their translators struggling to keep up. "These projectiles, most personal shields would be breached by them. The energy signature is too random for any defensive system to predict." Reed nodded, maintaining his calm composure. "That's kind of the point," he said. "Sometimes simple solutions work best." By midday, Reed and his team were ready for the final demonstration. The observers stood by in quiet anticipation as the soldiers cleared a mock building, an exercise in close-quarters combat. Reed's team moved with military precision, sweeping through the building room by room. Their movements were fast, coordinated, and deadly. It wasn't just about their weapons, it was about their ability to outthink and outmaneuver their opponents. After the demonstration, Bright Thought turned to Reed, a puzzled expression on his face. "I don't understand," he said. "Your weapons have no targeting computers, no energy management systems. How do your soldiers hit anything?" Reed bent down and picked up a spent shell casing from the ground. He held it up for the observers to see, their attention drawn to it immediately. "We train," Reed said simply. "We practice. We perfect our skills the old-fashioned way." He dropped the casing into his hand, allowing it to roll around in his palm for a moment. "But I suppose you'd prefer a targeting system or a quantum processor." Clear Mind shook their head, almost irritated at the suggestion. "But surely you realize," they pressed, "that energy weapons are superior? One shot from our standard rifle scan can be blocked by energy shields. There's no way your soldiers can overcome that." Reed, not missing a beat, tossed the shell casing toward Clear Mind. "Tell me how your shields handle this," he said calmly. Clear Mind caught the casing reflexively, and their personal shield did not react. There was no flashing of energy, no protective field surrounding them. For a moment, Clear Mind just stood there, looking at the casing in their hand before slowly meeting Reed's gaze. It was a moment of dawning realization, and the crystalline features of Clear Mind seemed to soften in understanding. Reed didn't need to say more. "Your shields are designed to stop energy weapons," he explained, "to react to power signatures, heat, and radiation. But a simple piece of metal moving at high speed? That's just basic physics." The observers huddled together, their conversation now in hushed tones, too low for Reed to hear. They were clearly grappling with the implications of what they had just witnessed. Finally, Clear Mind approached Reed, their expression now far more thoughtful, if not somewhat apprehensive. "Captain," Clear Mind said slowly, "we must report to the Council immediately. These demonstrations have revealed concerning implications." Reed nodded, keeping his expression neutral. "Of course," he replied. "Would you like to see our artillery units before you leave?" Clear Mind shook their head quickly. "That won't be necessary," they said. "We have seen enough." As the observers hurried back to their ship, Reed sent a brief message to Ambassador Miller, his tone light but direct. "Assessment complete. They're starting to understand." The alien ship lifted off, leaving a shimmering heat haze in its wake as it ascended toward the heavens. Reed turned to look at his soldiers, who were already resetting the range for their regular training exercises. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways, he thought to himself. Earth's simple, effective weaponry had shown the aliens that they couldn't always rely on flashy technology or sophisticated systems. The Council, he believed, would soon learn that lesson. High above, the observer's ship accelerated toward space, carrying with it news that would make the Galactic Council very, very nervous. Back on the new Montana colony, the atmosphere was tense. Red warning lights flashed across the colony's main street, while emergency sirens wailed through the air. Colonists scrambled for shelter as 3 battered alien ships descended through the atmosphere, their weapons glowing with malicious energy. Space pirates. Defense Chief Mike Roberts, a voice crackled over the tactical display in the colony's command center. "They must think we're easy prey." The pirate leader's voice boomed over the comm system. "Primitive humans," the voice jeered. "Your colony is now under our control. Your weapons are useless against our shields. Surrender your resources and we may let you live." Roberts, staring grimly at the display, keyed the comm system and responded. "This is Defense Chief Roberts. We have families here. Please reconsider your actions. The pirates' laughter crackled through the speakers, filled with mockery. Your pathetic weapons can't harm us. We've seen the council reports. You still use metal projectiles. How primitive. Roberts smiled grimly as he pressed a button on his console. Alpha Team, you're cleared to engage. Hidden gun emplacements sprang to life around the colony, their weapons trained on the descending pirate ships. The pirates, expecting an easy victory over primitive defenses, had made a critical mistake. They dropped their ships too close to the ground, within range of Earth's hidden defenses. What are these readings? One pirate shouted over the open channel, his voice full of shock as the pirate ship was struck by a salvo of fire. Earth had proved that sometimes the simplest solutions worked best, something the pirates were about to learn the hard way. The colony's defense guns roared to life as the first wave of pirate ships descended upon New Montana. Unlike the flashy energy weapons the pirates had expected, it was the simple, brutal efficiency of solid projectiles that met them. Regular bullets, not energy bolts, streaked through the air with deadly accuracy, tearing through the thin hulls of the alien ships. The pirate shields, designed to stop energy-based attacks, did nothing to halt the onslaught. The first pirate ship screamed in a violent spin, smoke pouring from multiple breaches in its hull. A deafening explosion rang through the air as it crashed to the desert below, its systems failing under the force of the human projectiles. The pirate leader's voice crackled over the comms in pure disbelief. Impossible, he screamed, his voice shaking with fury. Shields at maximum? That's the thing about our primitive weapons, Defense Chief Mike Roberts replied, his voice calm and unshaken. You can't shield against good old-fashioned lead. The second pirate ship, seeing the immediate destruction of their comrades, attempted to gain altitude, trying to escape the deadly barrage. However, its efforts were in vain as it took a direct hit from a heavy machine gun emplacement. The ship's engines sputtered, and with a final burst of sparks, it fell out of the sky, crashing to the ground. The third ship, the leader's vessel, turned to flee, attempting to make a hasty exit from the battle. But it was already too late. Roberts observed the ship's movements with a quiet satisfaction as it spiraled away, trying desperately to escape the onslaught of human firepower. This isn't possible. The pirate leader's voice trembled with frustration. The council said your weapons were harmless. Robert's response was calm, almost matter-of-fact. The council, he said, hasn't seen us in actual combat. He pressed a button on his comm system. Bravo team, show them our special surprise. In the outskirts of the colony, hidden deep beneath the surface, a massive structure began to rise from the ground. The observers, including the pirate leader, watched in confusion as a long barrel emerged, accompanied by a series of magnetic accelerators and whirring mechanical parts. No glowing energy fields, no floating components, just solid, grounded, and practical technology. What is that? One of the pirates muttered, watching as the massive structure took shape before them. Roberts grinned, his eyes gleaming with quiet pride. That, he said, is Earth's newest defense weapon. The massive railgun rose into position, aimed directly at the fleeing pirate ship. The device seemed almost simplistic when compared to the advanced, energy-based weapons of the aliens. There were no flashing lights or sophisticated displays, only the mechanical hum of the railgun as it prepared to fire. The next moment, the air was filled with the crackle of energy and the sound of raw power as the railgun fired. A single, solid tungsten rod, accelerated to an incredible speed by the powerful magnetic fields, shot out of the railgun, piercing the pirate ship's hull from front to back. The pirate shields did not even flicker in response. They weren't designed to stop something as basic, as primitive as a solid metal object traveling at such high velocity. The pirate leader watched in horror as the projectile tore through the ship, slicing through it as though it were paper. The ship's shields, which had previously been impenetrable to energy-based attacks, did nothing to protect the craft from this new threat. The impact force of the rod was so immense that the ship's systems failed immediately. The ship, already crippled by the railgun's attack, spiraled out of control, crashing in the plains outside the colony. This can't be happening, the pirate leader cried, his voice a mixture of disbelief and panic. Your weapons, they're not supposed to do this. Roberts watched the wreckage of the pirate leader's ship plummeting toward the ground. Sometimes primitive works just fine, he said, turning to his team. That railgun was just the start. Within an hour, the colony's security forces had secured the remaining pirates. Those that had survived the battle were shocked by the sheer effectiveness of human defense tactics. When Roberts approached the pirates, now prisoners, he could see the disbelief in their eyes. They had underestimated humanity's capabilities. I don't understand, the pirate leader muttered, his voice hoarse as he was led away by soldiers. The council's report said your weapons were primitive, outdated, useless. Roberts gave a small smile, his expression hardening. Sometimes primitive works just fine. He turned his attention to one of the pirates' energy pistols, which had been confiscated earlier. It was sleek, complex, with intricate designs and advanced technology embedded throughout it. He studied it for a moment before continuing. Your weapons are impressive, but you rely too much on your shields and energy systems. You think you're invulnerable. But you're not. One of the other pirates muttered in defeat. The council's reports, they were wrong. Humans aren't defenseless at all. Later that evening, Roberts drafted his report to Earth Command, detailing the battle and the successful use of Earth's military technology. The pirate ships, though damaged, would provide valuable technology for analysis. The surviving pirates would be interrogated to learn more about their operations. But beyond that, the most important result was the message that would now spread across the galaxy. Humanity's military might was far more capable than anyone had believed. In the colony's medical center, the doctors treated the pirates for their wounds, most of them never having seen injuries caused by physical projectiles before. The advanced medical systems designed to treat energy weapon burns struggled to deal with the bullet wounds, highlighting just how different Earth's combat style was compared to the advanced alien civilizations. One pirate, speaking quietly to another in their holding cell, muttered, "Send a message to all ships in the sector. Avoid human colonies. They're primitive weapons. They aren't primitive at all." As night fell over New Montana Colony, Roberts surveyed the wreckage of the pirate ships outside the dome. The council would have to reconsider their assessment of Earth's military capabilities. This small, decisive battle had sent a powerful message: underestimate humans at your own risk. Back in the Galactic Council's military committee chamber, chaos reigned. Holograms of the battle over New Montana Colony flashed from multiple angles, showing pirate ships being torn apart by simple human weapons. Alien military experts argued heatedly, their voices raised in confusion and concern. Admiral Brightshield, still furious, slammed his metallic fist onto the table. "This is unacceptable," he shouted. "How did simple projectile weapons defeat our best shield technology?" Dr. Void Seeker, the Council's chief weapons researcher, stepped forward, her dark energy form rippling with concern. "The answer is both simple and disturbing," she said, gesturing to the holograms. "We designed our shields to stop energy weapons, not solid objects." The room fell silent as the images zoomed in on human bullets tearing through pirate ships, ignoring the shields completely. The implications of this new discovery were staggering. "But that's not the worst part," Dr. Void Seeker continued. "The humans have developed weapons that combine basic physics with advanced technology." She waved her hand and a new image appeared, showing the railgun in action. "This railgun, it's just a metal rod accelerated by magnets. No energy signature. No heat signature to trigger our shields." The hologram played the moment when the tungsten rod pierced the pirate leader's ship. It was a devastating shot, one that passed through the ship's shields and armor as though they weren't even there. The room grew even more tense as the analysts calculated the kinetic energy behind the impact. "One shot from their railgun," one of the analysts said, "equals the power of our best energy cannons. But our defenses can't stop it." Ambassador James Miller stood quietly at the side of the room, watching the proceedings unfold. The council had invited him to explain Earth's military technology following the pirate incident, and he couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction as the aliens finally began to understand what they had once dismissed as primitive. "Perhaps," Miller suggested with a slight smile, "we could demonstrate more of our capabilities. Earth would be happy to share some of our defensive technologies as part of a full council membership agreement." Dr. Void Seeker, her energy form pulsing with interest, nodded. "You have more weapons we haven't seen?" Miller gave a slight nod. "The railgun was just the start," he said. "We have much more to show." The massive military training ground on planet Bid 7 stretched for miles beneath the twin purple suns that bathed the landscape in an otherworldly light. The field was a stark contrast of power and technology. On one side stood the pride of the Stormwing Empire, their latest battle machines gleaming with energy fields and advanced armor, while on the other human forces stood ready, armed with what the Stormwing considered primitive weapons. General Stone surveyed the battlefield through binoculars, watching as the Stormwing forces prepared for what was to come. It had been 3 weeks since the pirate incident, where humans had successfully defended their colony using basic projectile weapons and kinetic technologies. The Stormwing Empire, confident in their superiority, had demanded a direct military exercise, believing that humans would be no match for their advanced technology. The challenge was accepted, but the humans were ready. This time it was not about proving they were capable, it was about proving their effectiveness with what they had. Captain Reed, standing beside General Stone, spoke with a hint of quiet confidence. Their Supreme Commander is approaching. The Stormwing Supreme Commander, Steel Wing, arrived in a personal transport, his sleek armor glinting in the harsh light of the twin suns. The transport landed between the two forces, and the commander emerged, his form shimmering with energy shields that made him appear like a moving star. As he approached, his voice reverberated through the translation system. "Humans," Steelwing's voice boomed, "today we will see if your victories were mere luck, or if you truly possess the strength you claim. Show us your true power." General Stone stepped forward, unruffled by the Stormwing's commanding presence. "We accept your challenge," he said, his voice steady and authoritative. "Standard exercise rules, non-lethal power settings only." Steelwing's metallic face, obscured by the shining visor of his helmet, shifted slightly, though it could have been mistaken for what might have been a smile. "I doubt your primitive weapons will even scratch our new armor," he said, a note of disbelief creeping into his tone. The exercise was set to be straightforward. 3 rounds of combat, infantry, vehicles, and finally, combined forces. The winners would earn respect and influence in the council, but the Stormwing Empire had already decided that victory would be theirs. They assumed the humans were just as primitive in battle as they appeared, and their belief in the superiority of their technology was absolute. However, the humans had a different idea. The first round began with the Stormwing infantry advancing in perfect formation, their energy rifles humming with lethal power. The Stormwing soldiers, well-trained and heavily armored, marched forward confidently. On the human side, forces took cover behind makeshift barriers, a simple tactic that would have been dismissed by anyone who underestimated them. Steelwing observed from a distance, his voice carrying over the battlefield. "Basic tactics," he commented disdainfully. "No shield walls, no energy fields. They think they can hide behind barriers like this?" Then the humans opened fire. The sound of gunfire rang across the training ground, and regular bullets, paint rounds for the exercise, sped through the air, slamming into the advanced Stormwing armor. The rounds splattered against the surfaces with surprising force. Steelwing's confidence began to falter as he observed the results. Despite their recent upgrades, the Stormwing shield struggled to stop the simple kinetic impacts. The first few shots bounced off, but soon the constant barrage of human fire began to take its toll. Within minutes, half of the Stormwing force was marked with paint, their pristine armor stained in vibrant colors. Their perfect formation, once their pride, was shattered as soldiers scrambled to evade the constant barrage of projectiles. Steelwing's voice, once sure and confident, now carried a note of disbelief. "This is impossible," he muttered. "We modified our shields specifically for projectiles." General Stone, who had been observing the Stormwing forces from a nearby vantage point, responded coolly, his voice carrying across the field. "The problem isn't your shields, Steelwing," he said, his tone firm. "The problem is your thinking. You need to rely less on your technology and more on strategy. You need to learn how to outthink your enemy." The second round began shortly after, and the Stormwing battle machines rolled forward. These mechanical giants were designed to dominate any battlefield, their energy cannons glowing ominously as they charged toward the human lines. They looked like moving fortresses of light and power, an imposing sight that would intimidate most forces. But not the humans. They had faced worse and they were prepared. Human tanks responded quickly, their main guns firing special training rounds. These shells were simple, relying on pure kinetic force rather than energy or explosive power. The Stormwing machine's energy shields flared to life as the rounds struck. The shields, which had been designed to withstand energy-based attacks, flared and shimmered as they absorbed the impact. But they couldn't handle the sheer force of the simple metal rounds. The first few shots did little damage, but with every subsequent strike, the shields began to fail. The kinetic energy behind the human rounds was too much for even the most advanced alien shields to absorb. "You can't stop physics," Captain Reed commented from his position, watching the action unfold with a mix of amusement and focus. Another Stormwing machine was marked as destroyed as its energy shields failed, and the vehicle was rendered incapacitated by a well-placed shot from a human tank. Finally, the third and final round began. This was the combined forces exercise where infantry, vehicles, and their secret weapon, the upgraded railguns, would face off against the full might of the Stormwing forces. The humans coordinated their attacks with precision, using their tanks, infantry, and railguns to overwhelm the Stormwing soldiers. The Stormwing forces, despite their superior technology and firepower, found themselves struggling to adapt to the sheer simplicity and effectiveness of human tactics. The upgraded railguns especially were devastating. The Stormwing's advanced energy shields proved helpless against the high-velocity projectiles that tore through their defenses with ease. Steelwing watched in disbelief as his best units were eliminated one by the human forces. The Stormwing forces were overwhelmed, not by superior technology or advanced tactics, but by simple, effective weaponry and strategy. "We've seen enough," Steelwing called, his voice now thick with frustration. "End the exercise." The challenge had ended, but the results were clear. The Stormwing Empire, with all its advanced technology, had been bested by the simple, efficient tactics and weaponry of the humans. Steelwing stood there, staring out at the battlefield, his mind racing to comprehend the failure. The humans had shown him something he could not have predicted. They had taken the fight to the Stormwing Empire in a way that had shattered their confidence and forced them to reconsider everything they had believed about humanity. As Steelwing walked off the battlefield, his mind swirling with thoughts of strategy, General Stone gave a small nod to Captain Reed. The exercise had proven their point: human weapons were not to be underestimated. And in the larger context of the galaxy, they had just earned the respect they needed to secure their place among the stars. For the Stormwing Empire, the lesson was clear. Advanced technology wasn't always the answer. Simple, effective solutions, backed by the right strategy, could overcome even the most sophisticated defenses. And for the humans, it was another victory in a long series of challenges that proved their resilience, their ingenuity, and their place in the galaxy. As both forces gathered at the center of the training ground on Beta 7, the mood was markedly different from the earlier tension. The Stormwing soldiers, who had once viewed human weaponry with disdain, now examined the simple rifles and other equipment with new respect. Steelwing, the supreme commander of the Stormwing Empire, stood among them, his eyes narrowing as he studied the human weaponry. "Your weapons," Steelwing admitted after a long moment, "are not primitive at all, are they? They're perfectly designed for their purpose." General Stone nodded, his expression calm but knowing. "Sometimes the simplest solution is the best solution. All your amazing technology and yet you forgot the basics of physics." The weight of Stone's words hung in the air. The Stormwing Empire had boasted of its advanced technology, energy shields, plasma rifles, and other sophisticated devices, but they had been bested by something as simple as human bullets. Steelwing's tone had shifted from disbelief to one of grudging admiration. The battle had proven a critical point. It wasn't always the most advanced technology that won battles, but the efficiency and reliability of the weapons and tactics employed. "The Stormwing Empire acknowledges your military strength," Steelwing declared formally, looking directly at General Stone. "We will support your full council membership." The tension that had marked their first meeting seemed to evaporate in the wake of this declaration. Steelwing, once so sure of his empire's superiority, now stood humbled by the simple yet effective methods employed by humans. The lesson was clear. Sometimes cutting-edge technology couldn't overcome the basic principles of physics when applied effectively. As the Stormwing forces prepared to depart from Beta 7, one of their technical officers approached Captain Reed, the leader of the human forces in the training exercise. "Those paint rounds?" the officer asked quietly, casting a glance at the now dismantled Stormwing soldiers. "What would have happened if they had been real bullets?" Reed smiled, a hint of amusement in his eyes. "Well, they would have been a lot less colorful," he replied. The message was clear. The simple physical force of human weapons was deadly effective, and the advanced technology of the Stormwing Empire hadn't been enough to prevent that. That evening, as both human and Stormwing forces shared a meal under the twin suns of Beta 7, Supreme Commander Steelwing made another announcement. His voice carried across the gathering, drawing the attention of both sides. "The Stormwing Empire seeks to learn from Earth's military wisdom," Steelwing said, his words measured and formal. "We propose a joint training program." General Stone, who had watched with quiet satisfaction as humans and Stormwing soldiers conversed, shared stories, and learned from one another, accepted the offer without hesitation. As he did, he sent a message back to Earth Command: "Challenge complete." They're not laughing anymore. They're learning. The twin suns began to set over Beta 7, casting long shadows across the training ground where the Stormwing forces had once looked down on the human soldiers. Now they had a new understanding. The simple application of physics had defeated their advanced technology, and the humans had shown them that sometimes, the old ways, the simplest solutions, were the best. The following day, emergency lights flashed throughout the Galactic Council station, signaling a crisis. Hundreds of alien diplomats rushed through the corridors of the vast structure as another explosion rocked the station. The Separatists had launched a surprise attack, and their ships, armed with technology that had never been seen before, were proving nearly impossible to stop. "Their shields are unlike anything we've seen," a Council defense officer shouted over the din, his voice strained with panic. "Our energy weapons can't get through?" Ambassador Miller, having just arrived on the station for a routine meeting, ran into the command center, where Admiral Brightshield, the head of the Council's defense forces, was directing the chaos. The screens flickered with images of the Separatist fleet attacking Council defenses. Miller watched as the black-hulled Separatist ships absorbed or reflected every energy weapon fired at them, their shields glowing with an almost unnatural power. "They've already taken 3 Council worlds," Admiral Brightshield said, his normally composed voice tinged with concern. "These new shields, they make them nearly invincible. None of our weapons are working." Miller took a deep breath, watching the Separatists' unstoppable advance. The Council was powerless against this new threat, and it seemed as though their technological superiority meant nothing in the face of the Separatists' new shield technology. But then a new alert came through the station's sensors. Several ships had entered the system. A sensor operator's voice cracked over the comms. "Earth vessels, they're entering the system." Miller's heart skipped a beat as the familiar Earth fleet materialized on the monitor. The ships were simple compared to the sleek, energy-infused designs of the Council or the menacing Separatist vessels, but there was no mistaking their intent. No energy shields or glowing weapon ports adorned their hulls, just plain, practical ships. A new voice cut through the tension in the room. "This is Admiral Walker of the Earth Defense Fleet. We're here to help," the voice echoed through the station. "All Council forces, please clear the firing lanes." A Council member scoffed, his disbelief clear. "What can they do against shields that even our best weapons can't penetrate?" Before Miller could respond, Admiral Walker's voice came through again, firm and steady. "Who said anything about energy weapons?" With that, the human fleet opened fire, but not with the expected energy weapons or flashy projectiles. Instead, regular shells, solid, simple railgun rounds, launched from the human ships, accompanied by kinetic torpedoes that shot through space at incredible speeds. The Separatist shields, designed to stop energy weapons, were powerless against the incoming solid projectiles. The first Separatist ship exploded as the railgun rounds tore through its hull, the shields failing to absorb the kinetic impact. The Separatist commanders screamed in disbelief. "Impossible!" they shouted as their advanced ships were torn apart by the raw physical force of human weapons. "They're perfect against energy weapons," Miller explained to the stunned Council members, his tone calm yet triumphant. "But you forgot about simple physics. Just like everyone else did." As the battle raged on, more human ships arrived, bringing with them space marines. The human troops fought with the same straightforward, effective methods. Regular bullets cut through Separatist boarding parties, and simple grenades cleared corridors that energy weapons could not touch. The Separatists, once so confident in their technological superiority, were now facing an unstoppable force. In the command center, Admiral Brightshield watched the unfolding battle with a new sense of respect for the humans. "They're not even using their most advanced weapons yet," he noted, almost in awe. As the battle raged on, the tide turned decisively in favor of the humans. The Separatist forces retreated from Council space, their once impenetrable shields useless against the relentless onslaught of human kinetic weapons. The Council station was saved, and the invincible Separatist fleet was shattered. In the aftermath, Admiral Brightshield approached Miller, his tone more respectful than it had ever been. "When we first met, I laughed at your guns," he said. "Today, those same guns saved the Council." The emergency command center had turned from a place of panic to a celebration. Council members who had once mocked human weaponry now clamored to learn more about the simple, devastating technologies that had saved them. Dr. Void Seeker, her energy form pulsing with curiosity, couldn't stop examining the simple but effective kinetic strike technology. Earth forces were already deploying fleets to help retake lost territories and secure Council space. The message was clear: Earth's simple solutions had saved the Council, and the lesson was not lost on anyone. The age of advanced, complicated technology might not be as invincible as once thought. Sometimes, the simplest, most basic solutions were the most effective. As the grand celebration continued in the Galactic Council's main hall, the atmosphere had shifted dramatically since that pivotal moment a year earlier. Ambassador Miller, standing at the heart of the room, surveyed the scene with a sense of pride. The walls that had once been adorned with only energy weapons now proudly displayed human kinetic weaponry alongside the advanced alien designs. The simple effectiveness of human technology had earned its place among the most sophisticated tools of war in the galaxy. The Council's formal acceptance ceremony was underway. It had been a year since the Separatist attack, and now Earth was being officially granted full membership in the Galactic Council. A year ago, the Council had been hesitant to even acknowledge humanity as a serious power. Now they were celebrating Earth's contributions to galactic defense, and the galaxy was stronger for it. The head counselor, who had once viewed humanity with condescension, now stood before the assembly with respect in their eyes, for, in this case, reflecting a sense of reverence and admiration. Humans saved this council from destruction, the counselor began, their voice firm but humble. Today we correct our greatest mistake, the underestimation of Earth's strength. The entire chamber was filled with representatives from all races within the Galactic Council, including the Stormwing Empire, led by Supreme Commander Steelwing. The once haughty Stormwing forces had replaced their energy rifles with new hybrid weapons, a blend of their advanced technology and human designs. The lesson had been learned by all. 6 months ago we laughed at their weapons, the head counselor continued. We called them primitive. We were wrong. There was no mockery in their words now, only recognition of a fundamental shift in perspective. Dr. Void Seeker, the energetic alien scientist who had worked alongside humans for years, floated forward. Her energy form now sported a physical lab coat, a visible symbol of the growing collaboration between human and alien scientists. Thanks to human innovation, we've developed an entirely new field of military science, she announced, her voice filled with excitement. The combination of kinetic and energy weapons has made our defenses stronger than ever before. Screens around the chamber lit up with images showcasing the result of this cooperation. Council ships now carried both energy cannons and railguns, while soldiers trained with hybrid weapons that could easily switch between plasma bolts and physical projectiles. The Separatists, once confident in their superiority, had never dared to attack again. The Earth's kinetic solutions had effectively revolutionized the galaxy's military strategies. Admiral Brightshield, who had been one of the fiercest critics of human weaponry, now stepped up to the podium. His once sleek metallic armor had been modified, with physical plating added alongside his energy shields, a change that reflected the lessons learned from humanity's simple yet powerful designs. 1 year ago, I mocked human weapons in this very chamber, he said, his voice strong but sincere. Today I carry one myself. Brightshield drew a human-designed pistol from his side. The weapon was now modified with advanced alien technology, combining the best of both worlds. This weapon represents what we can achieve together, Brightshield declared, holding it up for all to see. The perfect balance of simple effectiveness and advanced science. Miller, standing in the background, watched as one by one, council members stood to share their experiences. The Stormwing Empire spoke of their joint training exercises with Earth's military forces, while other races described how human weapons had helped defend their worlds. Even the council's most traditional members had come to embrace the change. The benefits of combining Earth's grounded military tactics with alien technology had proven too powerful to ignore. The head counselor looked out across the chamber, then addressed the council once more. Therefore, by unanimous vote, they announced, Earth has been granted full council membership, with special recognition for military innovation. Ambassador Miller was called forward to the central platform. A year ago, he had stood there with the council laughing at Earth's primitive guns. Now the atmosphere had completely transformed. The chamber was filled with anticipation as all eyes turned to him. The same races that once mocked his people were now eager to learn from them. On behalf of Earth, Miller stepped forward, his voice calm yet resonant as he spoke. We accept this honor, he began. But more importantly, we accept the responsibility that comes with it. Together, we will continue to develop new ways to defend our shared galaxy. The ceremony took an unexpected turn as Dr. Void Seeker made a special announcement. The Council's Science Division is establishing a new research center on Earth, she said, her voice filled with excitement. We will study how to combine the best of all our technologies, both simple and advanced. A murmur of approval ran through the crowd, and then Supreme Commander Steelwing added his own piece of news. The Stormwing Military Academy is opening its first Earth campus, he said, pride evident in his voice. Our forces have much to learn from human military doctrine. As the ceremony concluded, Miller received one last message from Earth Command. Mission accomplished. Phase 4 complete. The galaxy is safer when we work together. Later that evening, during a quiet moment of reflection on the observation deck, Admiral Brightshield found Miller gazing out at the scene below. Council ships were practicing their new hybrid combat maneuvers, a testament to the integration of both energy and kinetic weaponry. "You knew this would happen, didn't you?" Brightshield asked, his voice a mix of admiration and wonder. Miller smiled softly. "We hoped it would," he replied. "Earth has learned that the best solution isn't always the most advanced one. Sometimes you just need to throw a rock. Really, really well." They watched as a human destroyer demonstrated its weapons, with railguns firing alongside energy cannons. The coordination of the two technologies was seamless, and it was clear that the hybrid approach had created something entirely new. "The galaxy has changed," Brightshield observed quietly, his gaze focused on the human ship below. "No one's laughing at human weapons anymore." Miller nodded. "No," he agreed. "Now they're asking us to teach them how to use them." As the celebration continued into the night, Miller thought about how far Earth had come. The Council had once ridiculed human weapons, but those same weapons had saved them all. Now humans and aliens were working together, combining simple physics with advanced technology to create something stronger than either could achieve alone. The galaxy was safer because of it. And if new threats appeared in the future, the Council would face them not just with human weapons but with the combined might of all the Council races, working together. The lesson had been learned: never underestimate the basics. Sometimes the old ways were still the best ways. No one was laughing anymore.